Welcome to Bogeys. It's the new disc golf card game to play during a round. In this video, we're going to be having a look at all the cards, how the rules are played, and just the mechanics of the game. So at the very start, everyone is dealt 10 random cards. You can only play one card per hole, and you get +5 for every unplayed card after 18 holes. Every card will have an indicator in the top right corner, whether it's a P1, a P2, or an OP card. And the P1 cards are played in phase 1, which is before anyone has taken a shot on the hole. Now, there's no order for players on, who plays their cards first. You still keep the order on who throws first, so as you would, whoever won the previous hole gets to throw first. But there's no order for players on these P1 cards. The P2 cards are played after the last putt on a hole, so once everyone's finished, you can then play the P2 cards before you put the scores in. Now, again, there's no order for the players on these P2 cards. OP cards are open play cards, and they can be played anytime. If cards in play contradict, the most recently played card takes effect. So this is why there's no order for players on the P2 and the P1 cards, because if you play a card, someone can trump it. For example, if I play a card that gives me a par, and then an opponent plays a card that gives me a bogey, I would take a bogey because it was the most recently played. And vice versa, if an opponent plays a card on me that gives me a bogey, I can then play a card that gives me a par for that hole. So this is a good way to get into stalemates, where you can kind of be like, oh, I don't want to play my cards just yet because the opponents haven't played a card, so I don't want to get trumped by them. But then you'll also get stuck in a position where you haven't got rid of all 10 cards and you could get stuck with +5 at the end of the game. And that's +5 for every card that you have left in your hand. If you catch an opponent not following the rules of a card, call it out and add +1 to their score for each time. So if someone plays a card where they have to throw with their non-dominant hand and they forget and they, do a 2-foot tap in with their right hand, call it out and add a +1. If you play a result card, you must still play the hole as you would. A result card is a P1 card that tells you your score for the hole. As you play out the hole, though, remember your score just in case the final word is played. That's a gold card which stops all cards in play, so you're going to want to know what your actual score is for the hole, just in case. No one can take the first shot on a hole until everyone has confirmed they are not playing a P1 card. If you say no to playing a P1 card and then someone else plays a P1 card, you're still allowed to play one after that, but no one's allowed to throw until everyone has either played a card or said no to playing a P1 card. You can form alliances and stack black cards onto a single player, so if someone's running away with the lead or they're maybe just running their mouth a bit too much, make them throw with their non-dominant hand from a knee where in their bag, and it'll bring them back down to size really quickly. If a card says no +5 underneath where it says P1 or P2 or OP, that just means you don't get penalized for holding that card at the end of the game. And then the number in the bottom right indicates how many of those are in the deck. So there's 40 different cards, but there's a deck of 60, so 20 of them are duplicates. This diagram just helps better explain the phases. So this is hole 1, so you've got your 10 cards, and then you move to phase 1. When you're on a T-pad, you can play a P1 card. Of course, you can't throw until everyone said they're not playing a P1 card, but as long as you're on that pad, you can play a P1 card. After everyone has played a P1 card or said they're not, you move on to the first drive, and then after the last putt is done on the hole, you move into phase 2. As you can see along the side here, open play cards you can play during phase 1. You can play in between, the first drive and the last putt, so anytime during the hole. And then you can also play open play cards during phase 2. After everyone has, finished off their putts, and if no one's playing a phase 2 card, then it goes straight to scorekeep, or if someone's playing a phase 2 card, then it goes to scorekeep after those cards are played. After the scorekeep, you then move on to hole 2, and you can play a P1 card again when you're on that pad. I'm just going to take you through all the cards now that you will get in your set. The colors of the cards are very important. They tell you who you play them on. So the green cards you play on yourself, and they help you. So the green ones are good cards to have. Feel free to pause the video at any time if you want to have a better look at the art or the words and see what the cards do. These are the black cards, so these are also good cards. You play them on your opponents, and it will hurt your opponents. Some single out opponents, some play them on all the opponents. The red cards, these are bad cards. You don't want to see these red cards in your hand when you're dealt. These you have to play on yourself, and they hurt yourself. So the tactics will be, you play the red cards on a shorter hole, and you play the black cards on a longer hole. So you make your opponent suffer for longer, and you kind of minimize the damage that you're playing on yourself. And if you don't want to play the card on yourself, that's fine, but you will take a +5 penalty at the end. These purple cards are gambling cards, so they could either help you or hurt you, or they'll help your opponent or hurt your opponent. And then finally the gold cards. So these are the rarest in the game. There's only 5 in the deck. Every one of these cards there's only one of. So these are the ones you want to see. If you get, 1 or 2 of these in your hand at the start of the game, then it's really exciting. And that's it. Thanks for watching, and head to bogeysgame.com if you want one. Cheers.